How does inequality of education impact nations around the globe? Well, it impacts all aspects of different roles dealing with economics, gender, poverty level, and also globalization. Studies have been shown that girls are more involved in school than boys due to violence and gangs, especially in Latin America. The gangs tend to draw in boys that are in high school, middle school, and also even in elementary. Once the boys join, that's when they stop caring about not having an education to better their futures, so they just give up. Access to resources plays the majority role for inequality of education in nations with poverty. Countries that do not have access to the kind of technology that we have in the U.S. makes their education and or lives more difficult. For example, if I had a question on my homework that I didn't understand, I could just simply look it up on the internet. Whereas children that live in poverty might not have that or anything else like food, water, and clothes. In Bangladesh, they do not have consistent learning outcomes. They also have a hard time with finding teachers. In sub-Saharan Africa, over 12 million girls are at risk of never receiving education. Sub-Saharan Africa is also the most affected area with over 32 million children of primary school age remaining uneducated. South Africa suffered a decrease in higher education programs. In places like Somalia, 50% of children receive education less than 2 years. In the article, Will Education Reduce Inequality? The author has stated, perhaps the movement to reduce inequality will lead to improvement in education, plus the poor helping stimulate long-term growth in the economy. World leaders have adapted the Millennium Declaration in 2000 to create a more fair world, but the opportunity has been more and more hard for some of these countries to reach.
8-year-old Faria Noor has never been to school. However, she does have an idea of what one looks like. She lives with her family in a makeshift camp for displaced people next to the ruins of a school on the outskirts of Baidoa town in southern Somalia. But as she helps her family to find food and look after her younger siblings, she can only dream of life inside a classroom.
We do not go to school, and that's because our parents do not have money. They're jobless. We do not even have a proper shelter or beddings to sleep on at night.
The prolonged civil war in Somalia left the country in ruins and destroyed the education system. But the new Somali federal government has made education a priority. Along with the authorities in Somaliland and Puntland, it's launching a Go to School initiative with the aim of giving 1 million children and youth the chance to access education.
Going from school to school, it is very noticeable that there is a major gap between schools that are doing poorly and schools that are doing very well. For instance, if you look at schools like Dickinson and then look at schools such as Archmere, there's a very noticeable difference between the two. By not only looking at the appearance of the schools, if you look even further, there's a dramatic difference between how well the students are doing in terms of their schoolwork. This, of course, doesn't only happen in Delaware, this happens across the United States as well.
A lot of the teachers at Coral are very hands-on, so allow you to get specific knowledge on what you want to know.
The rigor and the difficulty really got me ready for college, to where right now I think it's very easy.
While there are benefits to being a K-12 school,
they get to really build a sense of community at our school.
It also means accommodating a larger number of students. But the charter school will soon have a new home. Starting in August, Coral Academy will be moving into the Omaha Bank building on Neal Road. The building is currently being renovated into a fully functional high school with new classrooms, science labs, art studios, and a cafeteria and library.
With that expansion comes the new state-of-the-art facilities too. These are things that students wouldn't see until the college level, and they get to experience it years before many other students.
The middle school students will remain at the current site on 9th Street, meaning class sizes will remain small.
Linda Wayman was an assistant superintendent in the district before coming to Strawberry Mansion this year.
I could not find a principal who was suitable to handle this school. So therefore, I said to myself, because I love these students dearly, and I knew the community, I will just volunteer to be the principal.
In this school, security guards watch for razor blades and tinfoil, knives, and Vaseline on faces used to make them slippery during a fight. Security cameras everywhere.
And how many cameras? 94. 94 cameras, yes, and we need more.
Our education system is set up as if schools that are doing well will remain to do well, while schools that are doing bad will remain to do bad. Good teachers at good schools will teach children who are already doing well and plan to attend college to better themselves in the future. This is all while schools that do bad will have teachers that aren't as great. It's not necessarily the teacher's fault that they aren't as great teachers. It's just that they're lacking the support that they truly need to better themselves as well as the kids that they are teaching.
Explain exactly how they do that. We know today that there's nothing magical and nothing elusive about attaining real success with kids in low-income communities. You know, it's about all the basics. You know, there's no way around the very hard work of getting it done, but there's nothing elusive about it. And today there are thought to be 200 schools in low-income communities that are really accomplishing this at a whole school level. So the conversation today is completely different. You know, whereas before we were trying to figure out, can this be done on any sort of scale? Today we know this can be done, and the question is really just, okay, how do we affect the system level changes necessary to truly ensure that all kids have access to teachers and schools that will put them on a level playing field?
The major historical and modern factors that propel the social justice issue of inequality in education goes back to about the 1800s, where first women were not allowed to have an education because of the culture of the time. It was only fitting that men receive an education because they were provided for the family. And second, African Americans are not allowed to have an education. They did not have equal schools. Some at first and during slavery they were not allowed to even attend schools. There were some schools, but for them, like freedmen schools, but they didn't really teach them anything. They kind of kept them like in their place as what the world viewed at that time. And they didn't actually get like equal rights until about probably the 70s with desegregation, that they finally got allowed to schools with everyone else. And the modern factor is there are still people today that feel that way, that women and African Americans should not have equal rights when they should, and that they won't be able to learn the same and understand the same things. Another problem is people who are poor have historically been denied education because they say they're not too smart because they're poor, or they're not going to be able to achieve as much as rich people, which is false.